Hello, welcome to the Myth-Busting Neurodiverse Relationships podcast. I'm Natalie Roberts and I'm here with my co-host Heather Parks. We've both been in our neurodiverse relationships and families for more than 25 years. We met 10 years ago when we were feeling really desperate and trying to solve a lot of issues in our relationship and our families. We've been journeying since then. We've found many more positive and hopeful ways to solve, resolve, repair, reconnect in those relationships and in our families, in our lives. And we now co-host also Loving Difference online, giving hope and a way forward for neurodiverse relationships. In this podcast, though, we're busting the myths about neurodiverse relationships, which we had when we started this journey, that we've realised aren't true, and that actually were preventing us from recovering and having the relationships with our partners and children that we wanted. So we want to dispel these myths and bring you hope that absolutely things can change. So whether you're out and about or comfy with a cuppa, let's dive into our next conversation. See you there.
Hi. In this episode, Natalie and I are exploring mealtimes. We're going to challenge some of those social norms around mealtimes and what that says about us as a family. Is it just good families that sit around the table? Can we be a good family and not sit around the table? How are mealtimes for you anyway? Are they just one big stress? Do your young people find it difficult to sit still? Do they complain about eating noises? Is there just so much stress around meal times that it's just not fun for anybody? Yet still we have the advice, don't we, from professionals saying, make the effort to sit round the table and share quality time. Well, I think that needs to be challenged, and Natalie and I are going to do that in this conversation and explore ways where we find other ways of connecting with our young people.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about meal times.
Yeah.
So I witnessed a conversation between a professional and a family. And they were talking about ways of increasing connection between parent and child. And
which all sounds helpful.
Yeah, which is great. However, I found it a bit triggering.
Okay, say more.
So the conversation came round about meal times and how this child, who is neurodivergent, didn't like sitting at the meal table with the rest of the family. And the professional was talking about setting boundaries and negotiating and basically nicely putting it, but kind of forcing the child that the child would have to sit at the dinner table because that's what we do. And the reason it triggered a lot of stuff for me is I'm not able to do that with my family.
No.
A long time ago, we realised that just isn't going to work. And so I was kind of wondering how to interject without undermining the professional, yet feeling like this maybe wasn't the best
experience.
I had some lived-in experience with that. So it was just a bit tricky. And I just wondered, I think it'd come up in the network recently as well. We're talking about meal times, and I thought it'd be really useful to explore that narrative whereby we think good families sit down at the dinner table and talk about their day.
Yeah, happy family would or looks like a family round a table looking a certain way, or also I was going to say something else and I've forgotten what it was. Anyway, tell me how it was for you with meal times. What were your experiences before perhaps you made changes, and we can talk about those because we've needed to do that as well. But how was it for you?
Just incredibly stressful. It was like herding sheep to get everybody to the table in the first place. And then my husband didn't really run to schedule, particularly well with work. He would get caught up in things. So trying to time it when he was around during the week seemed just really tricky. And then even if I was just wanting to sit down with the 4 children, that seemed to be tricky. It never seemed to be a nice time. There just seemed to be a constant meltdown or just it was just tricky. There was fighting, bickering.
Yeah.
You know, there was none of this, how was your day? Oh, it was lovely. And today, this, that, you know, it wasn't what I thought it was supposed to be. It was just plain stressful.
Yeah. I think we experienced something similar, and I think for me it was always something that I think I was looking forward to having as a family, that we would have, there would be meal times. I wasn't talking about every day, like not that stuff, but you know, just that there would be meal times, and that they would be a chance to have conversation. And I mean, I don't know, it feels a bit weird to even describe what it was that I was wanting, because it just seems so obvious really, that it is just a relaxed time, you're talking and enjoying food, and everybody's enjoying that generally. It isn't thinking that would always be perfect. It's not sort of thinking, I know that everybody has their ups and downs with meal times and arguments and all that. That's all, I get that, but there was something about them that felt awkward or difficult, or they just were never easy. They never seemed to be those at all.
No.
It was only once I started to understand neurodiversity and anxiety and some of the things that were contributing specifically to why meal times were challenging, that some pennies began to drop about why some of those specific kinds of times were hard. Even if we went out for dinner, those times always seemed to be really difficult as a family as well. And can remember endless sort of big blow-ups and issues, even when we're out, particularly with children around that were difficult. And it was only when we had some more information which illuminated those situations that I could understand better what had actually been going on, and therefore what we might choose to do going forwards.
So I'm hearing the same for me. We didn't have unrealistic expectations. No. It was still a desire we had. We wanted to sit down with the family and have these conversations. Yeah. We wanted it to be a nice time. Yeah. We wanted it to be a point of connection. Yes. Yeah. You know, we had all those desires and those dreams, but for some reason, which we didn't understand, it just never felt like that.
Yeah, it always, lots and lots of times it felt disappointing.
Yes.
And I just, there's things that I just recognise now that were, Pete definitely didn't converse, didn't really join. I don't know how much I really noticed this looking back, you know, but look back now and I know it was there. That there wasn't this ease of conversation, or the toing and froing of conversation, and just a relaxed atmosphere, relaxed. Even sometimes would be, that's, you know, I didn't feel relaxed in it really very often.
No, and I didn't find, you know, and particularly if we then added in anybody else. Yeah. Oh, and she'd have this. I remember I had friends that we, you know, when the children were small, used to come around, and so the kids would play and we'd sit at the table, and then my kids had those trip-trap chairs, and all the other children wanted to sit in their chairs, and then it was like a massive meltdown, and parents couldn't understand why I wasn't letting their child sit in my child's chair, and I was like, oh, actually that is his chair and that's where he sits, because I already instinctively knew that wasn't a good idea.
No, looking back, like, we had worked out that we sat in certain places at the table. And again, I don't think that's unusual with families. No. But it was more that you recognised that if there was a reason for that to change, that was more challenging for people. So whereas I think with other people, you probably have your normal way you sit as a family when it's just you. And then if other people come, you just all move around and it's fine. That didn't work well for us. That was most definitely, this is where people sat. And
we had very rigid sitting places, and that's why if someone came and didn't understand that, but there was a bit of an argument over a child wanting the chair or something, it was like, it was just so stressful, and I was just and I didn't know how to advocate for myself or my child in that situation, because I felt embarrassed by the behaviour and by the fuss that was being made about something that, you know, about this whole sharing thing. We should be able to share, and other people thought it would be good for my children to learn this skill, and that I wasn't. So that added all, you know, it's just like there's so many different layers on there. It's like, and it certainly wasn't ever this lovely, let's sit down. And then there was the kind of disappointment and frustration around the fact that people didn't like the same food, and so usually it would be like something, it would all centred around how everyone hated what the meal was for various different reasons, and then that would get frustrating.
It all just got further and further away from what we wanted to be, which didn't feel like we were asking a lot, you know, and it wasn't that we were asking it for every meal and every day and it all be perfect, but it just seemed like something was out of reach. So when you started to learn more about neurodiversity and different needs and anxiety, what pennies started to drop for you about what actually had been going on at the table that you hadn't known, or nobody had really known that's what they were experiencing? What did you start to glean from that?
Yeah, so I think it was, I think the penny might have started dropping earlier than this, but when it really reached a head was when my then 8-year-old, my third son, basically discovered, he came into me one day and said, "Oh, have I got misophonia?"
Okay.
And I said, "I don't know, because I don't know what that is." Yeah. And he was just
something.
He googled it.
Amazing.
He'd googled it, what was going on. I have asked him since what he googled. I can't remember. No. But it must have been around eating noises drive me nuts.
Oh, amazing!
And make me angry. Yes. And that's why he found it. And so then I sort of launched into this. At the same time, he was already on the autism pathway for a diagnosis into that. Yeah. And we were already having problems with various other members in the family. I had a child who was like finding it difficult to eat in public, didn't really want to eat in front of people. So I had one that didn't want to eat, didn't want to be around other people eating, one that didn't want to eat himself in front of other people, and one that had very restrictive and different timetables about where he wanted to eat and what he wanted to eat and everything. But it was the learning about misophonia and the fact that this particular eating noise thing was something that was causing a huge blowout and a huge amount of stress, and distress for the child, and distress for the rest of the family as well. And it was just like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. What are we doing? It was just like, stop, full brakes on, emergency stop.
Look at it again.
Right, we're completely changing this. You can eat wherever you like, whenever you like. And then we changed it, very fluid kind of meals were like, they were going to be put, and I'd let people know that we were going to have a meal, but it was always like, come down if you want to, heat it up later if you want to, whoever wants to do it, and it just, it's kind of a bit of a pick and mix now. I share my meals with 1, 2, whoever's around and wants to join me and feels able to at the time. My son, who has misophonia and still struggles with that, pretty much never sits with us at the table. He can only really manage, very occasionally he might put himself in that position because he really enjoys meals out and it's a restaurant that he really likes, and then he can tolerate it as long as we're all eating at the same time. But if someone starts eating beyond his eating, so he's not masking the sound with his own eating, then he might have to get up and leave and go.
So actually he has worked out some situations, some environments and some coping strategies, or what works for him, and is using those so that it has less of an impact on other people as well. Yeah, it's really good.
And it's been just allowing him, giving him the freedom, giving him the control, giving him when it's okay for him and when it's not okay. And that has just, and then sort of obviously, because you're doing that for one child, you then give the same permission to everybody, don't you? And then all of a sudden the pressure just went, whoo, it was just like, oh my goodness. And now whoever comes to the table because they want to, and they don't mind in there and they expect a bit of engagement. We still don't force it, but if they don't want any engagement, they just would choose not to come to the table. So
it's making it more invitational. I think that Mealtimes are invitational, and that people can join in the way that suits them to do that. So some of the things that I learned for us that were going on was some stuff very early on that Pete shared, just really because I think we were out for a meal with other friends at one point, and he said, do you enjoy it? Are you enjoying this? 8 of us sat around a table having a meal. And I said, yeah, I'm really enjoying it. He said, I thought for the whole of my life that everybody is sat around the table not enjoying it, but we're all doing it because that's what you have to do. So we're all having the same, we don't enjoy this experience, I hate it, but we're all doing it because that's what he was doing. So his only perspective was that everybody else was doing that. So
that's making me feel a little bit sad.
I know, but then also it started to shed some light on, and I guess there was the going out and other people kind of meal, but then the home meals actually, again, with curiosity and just being willing to find out and ask some things, it became apparent that even family meal times are difficult, partly because it's I think for us it's quite an emotional time, it's a connecting time, it's a people-y time. For people-y is anxiety straight away. One person is probably manageable, two or more people, anxiety is starting to stack up. Even when it's your own family, when there's more than one, it becomes complicated. The conversation becomes more complicated. So that's anxiety as well, to manage that and be in that. And for him, it's time to eat. So he's focused on the eating.
It's just, let's eat and go.
And when I do remember when what used to happen was people would eat and regularly just leave the table, which to me was not what you do at mealtime. You were like this, again, the rule of where you would wait till everyone's finished and then we'd all leave, and people would regularly be leaving the table before. Now I know it's because I finished my meal and that's what this is for, because his meaning attached to meal times was food, and it's really anxiety. Like, he didn't know it was anxiety even then, but I can't tolerate this anymore. So
his body would have told him to go, wouldn't it? Yeah.
And then realizing later that actually other members of my family, children, were experiencing similar. So those were some of the things. And what was the other things I was thinking about it? The conversation was difficult. Like the purpose was different for both of us about what was going on. And even one of the other things he said at one point was, I don't like the yellow placemat. So I had placemats that had some photographs on and they were different colours. And he just said, I really don't like the yellow one. So even that was increasing his anxiety at the table. So some of the changes we made were, one was, we can fix that right away. Whenever we set the table, we won't put that one out in your place. Actually, generally we didn't put it out if that's a bothering thing. And again, it's just about, for Pete, environment is what he's, the sensory input from the environment is massive. And for whatever reason, the yellow on the placemat was going on for him. So we just generally didn't use that one. But it's just great information to have. And then, like you, we made it more optional, and it was fine for people to leave when they were finished. And actually now the children are not either at home or generally not eating with us. We know, or I know, that Pete's anxiety is considerably lower just not to eat at a table. I think it's such a triggering
about it, isn't it?
I think there's so much history for him that environment is just by its nature stressful and is activating.
That's a really good point, because we also know what the history, what their family meal times were like, and so we might have had relatively fond memories or not, but we've chosen that we want to make new ones consciously. So whichever way around, but then actually, we don't know how stressful that was necessarily for somebody else growing up. It's become a very stressful environment to be in. So just the anticipation of that, the being in that, like some of the other situations we've talked about recently, where you suddenly realise, actually, I'm not liking this because it reminds me of something else. That's what's been going on. So now we don't sit at a table unless we're out at a restaurant together. And that just means our anxiety levels are lower, and it actually means that, going right back to the conversation that you witnessed around the pet, the family and the advice, was actually our connection, both Pete and I, and as a family, is better for not having those You can't
rules.
Force connections. You can only invite. You can only invite connection. You can only seek it out on someone else's terms.
It's like consent, isn't it? It's asking and inviting. Is this something that you have energy for? Is it something that you want to do? And if it isn't, either find another thing to do. Like mealtimes don't have to be the connecting. There can be many, many more ways. And I think letting go of that battle, letting go of we may not ever have a family meal together, was so big, but it was actually releasing, because it probably was a while before we did anything much together or around a table. But once the pressure was off and people now had evidence that there wasn't pressure, actually some family meals started to happen.
Yeah.
With some different rules and some knowing that needs were being heard and people knew how people were feeling, and then people felt safer again to be in that situation.
Absolutely.
So now we do have some, and I enjoy them hugely when they happen.
They're magic.
Hugely.
They're treasured, aren't they?
Because
they're rare.
Pete sees me come in and he's like, I can see you're purring when we do that.
Yeah.
So they know how valuable it is to me, but equally I don't want that to be happening with everybody in a really anxious state and finding it really difficult.
No, what we don't want to encourage is them to do it to please us.
No.
We want to do it because they're able and they have that energy and they have the capacity, and it's an invite and it's about around consent. All those things are so important, aren't they? And I think to feel safe, that's what we want. We want everyone to come into it feeling safe, because that's, you can't build a relationship when you're not feeling safe.
And basically that environment has become very unsafe, feeling unsafe for people. And I think so I think my invitation to people listening or watching, it is to just look at that and let go. It's hard to let go of the thing you've been hoping for, expecting, or wanting to create, and often forcing in all different kinds of ways, subtly or otherwise, to try and make it happen. And let go of the story that says that if meal times aren't happening, my family is broken, or there's something wrong with my family. Because what I realized was that just isn't true. Once we let go of that, we were able to actually heal as a family, and then there are other ways that you can create being happy. It's very limited, I think, the things that we have in a culture that say a happy family looks like, or will be doing and I think for a lot of our families where there's many different needs and other issues, particularly anxiety, I think is the biggest one, there's many other ways to connect, and there's many other ways for us to get the kind of connection and feeling that we've been talking about, and thinking it only has a frame that looks like a meal together, and realizing there's a whole load of other frames I can put around.
Absolutely.
And the other thing
letting go opens up the space, doesn't it? So let go to let in. Yeah, exactly.
The other thing I was going to say was what I think is really important that we've done is to also not let go of the value we place on and the need we have for that kind of relaxed, conversational, enjoyable eating experience. And we do that now by going out with friends or creating that with other people, and us meeting up. Us meeting up, and a big part of it is around the table, sitting, having food, cooking together. Just is relaxed. We enjoy it. So it's actually making time for that and knowing that and so we do get that need met. And also I will make invitations to individuals in my family to connect over food, and make that mean and feel as good as if we were all around the table together, and that's all really good. So it doesn't mean we've got to also give up our need or our enjoyment of that. It's just we find other ways to do it so that you still have everything and others' needs can be met. I think that's really really important, and it is such a big part of our sort of community getting together, isn't it? And we love that whole changes everything. And actually I enjoy the meals so much more in those situations because of the collaboration around the cooking. And there's no resentment, there's no I've made this and then you're not joining me, there's none of that. Just let go of that, all of that, and find other ways to let it in and still have their joy. It just doesn't have to look that way. So just find new ways and let go of some of the frames that we feel have to be there. I think also my thing would be to look underneath that. What is it that you think or know that eating with all your family together gives you? Because what we've decided is only one of the ways, or maybe the only way to get that, is around a dinner table all together. So we focus on around the dinner table all together rather than what does that give me, just you, that I really need and value, and then take that beautiful thing that you know for yourself and find other ways to get that, because all that we're doing is defining it in a certain way, and actually we could define it in lots of other ways.
Absolutely, and then find different ways to have that connection with those people that you love in your family as well. So it's not that you completely think, oh well, can't do that there, so I can only do it over here. It might be that the Mealtimes is something like that, but actually you find you can connect quite well on a walk, or you just find something else. Or like my son, he will do it occasionally if we go to the right, very few selected restaurants. But it is that we go to somewhere familiar
because it's safe.
Yeah, it's safe. We know it's on the menu. We're not going to get any new. Well, sometimes the menu changes, a bit stressful, but
it is very stressful.
It's very stressful.
Or when you're going to a restaurant and your daughter's basically looking for, is there sausages and is there a Thai green curry? No, okay, can't go there. Yeah.
But all of those things, with understanding, the frustration can go because it's fine. Yeah. We're just meeting needs, and that's what we're doing. Yeah. We're meeting our needs. We're meeting their needs.
It's also the other thing for me. Just was realizing that I had all sorts of other things about maybe eating out that were important to me, like where we went, what kind of food I wanted to have, and all that kind of thing. But actually, and then I was like, well, everybody else is getting what they need, and I'm not. Then I realized that all of those things, I need to let go of my stuff around all of that, because what's most important to me really is connection. So I'm willing to I don't really mind now where we go or whatever. That's all on their terms, because that's where they'll be most comfortable and safe, and anxiety is going to be its lowest. And because what I'm really in it for is connection. Yeah. And so let go of the other stuff, and then it's just a beautiful thing. It can be much
and actually we can go and eat at those places on our own. Yeah, actually, if we want
to, or with you.
And connection can happen because everyone else feels safe. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So love that. So thanks for that. So I think I'm really looking forward to I think next time I will feel a bit more like I need to step in at that point, because although we don't never like to undermine anyone else, I just think that message that they'd given that family was tricky, because it was very clear that their family member had difficulties around all of that, and I think it's potentially could have created more stress.
It sounds like the should word was, if it wasn't said, was implied, and that's again just judgment on ourselves really about what something if you want to be a happy family, if you want things to get back better, then you should be doing this, and it should look this way, and you just need to make everybody do it.
Not going to work.
No.
Not in our experience.
Definitely not in our experience at all. So I hope there's something in that for all of you, and we'll join us on another episode soon.
If this episode has resonated with you, subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening or watching to get notifications of future episodes. To dive deeper into all of this with professional coaching, resources, and all the support you need, join us in Love Indifference via www.loveindifference.net. And we'll be back here soon.